Hi everyone, welcome to Happy Movie.
Today we're going to talk about a disaster film and the panic the virus brings. In this film, the two most terrifying aspects of the pandemic are heat deaths caused by the virus. The movie starts on the second day of the outbreak.
At that time, people in London and Tokyo began to experience dizziness, weakness, and vomiting.
These people passed away shortly after falling ill. The wife of the main character, Mitch, is an executive of an engineering company.
On that day, she had just returned from a business trip. She also showed similar symptoms.
On the fourth day of the epidemic,
Mitch's wife was preparing breakfast and suddenly collapsed. Shortly after being taken to the hospital, she was pronounced dead. Mitch had not yet come to terms with reality when even worse things happened. His son also fell ill and died. By the fifth day,
the death toll in various countries was increasing.
The US Health Department also noticed the epidemic spreading. There were already 2 deaths around Mitch. The risk of infection was high. Therefore, he was isolated by the health department. His daughter, who was away, came back to see him, but they could not reunite. Meanwhile, experts began studying the virus.
This is a new virus that is still mutating. The mortality rate is about 20%.
There are already 80,000 cases worldwide. It is expected to increase rapidly to 260,000.
However, experts still have no clue about vaccine development at the moment.
They explained that to make a vaccine,
they must cultivate the virus and study it. But so far, this virus kills every cell it encounters and cannot be cultivated at all. On the 12th day of the epidemic, the first good news finally emerged.
An elderly scientist in his own laboratory successfully cultivated the virus.
Previously, for safety reasons,
officials only allowed research in the level 4 laboratories.
However, the old scientist's lab was a less secure level 3 laboratory.
His cultivation of the virus was actually illegal.
But since he succeeded, everyone had no choice but to overlook it.
Furthermore, cultivating the virus is only the first step in overcoming the epidemic.
The next steps include developing a vaccine, human trials, and distributing. Each step takes several months. As of this day, the global infection count has expanded to 8 million.
On this day, Mitch's test results also came out. The results showed that he had been infected with the virus, but miraculously recovered on his own. He is now an immune person and will not be infected anymore.
Mitch asked the doctor if she could study himself to eradicate the epidemic, but the doctor answered, studying Mitch would only produce serum.
And making serum is time-consuming and expensive.
It is not suitable for global promotion. The only solution is a cheap and efficient vaccine. Soon, Mitch no longer needs to be isolated. He can go home with his daughter. On the 14th day of the epidemic, the president has been moved to an underground bunker.
Nurses, fearing for their safety, have gone on strike. Officials, in cooperation with the military, have imposed a city lockdown. As for the officials' families, they received the news in advance and evacuated outside the city early. On this evening,
an internet celebrity, David, pretended to have also contracted the virus.
When he drank a herbal medicine called forsythia in front of the camera,
he announced that forsythia was indeed effective and cured him.
In fact, he never had the virus and was colluding with investors, hoping to make a fortune by promoting forsythia.
However, the public in their desperation to get the medicine believed him.
The next morning,
the masses in a hurry to get medicine started rioting.
Mitch and his daughter also passed by. They intended to buy a box of cereal,
but found the supermarket already in chaos. Some shops even caught fire. They quickly left.
On this evening, as officials were having a live online confrontation with David, officials accused David of spreading false information.
Meanwhile, David accused officials of hiding the truth, such as never daring to tell the public that the virus's reproduction rate is 2. The reproduction rate refers to how many people one infected person can transmit the virus to. An index of 2 means,
after one person is infected, they transmit it to 2 people. Then 2 transmit it to 4.
4 transmit it to 16. 16 transmit it to 256. And after that, it's 65,000 people.
David was not completely fabricating this point. The virus's reproduction rate is indeed 2. Officials dared not tell the truth to the public because of this.
They admitted without saying a word. It has been 21 days since the outbreak.
Scientists are still progressing slowly. Meanwhile, the virus continues to mutate.
Its fatality rate has risen to 25% to 30%. The reproduction rate has risen to 4.
People pessimistically estimate that 1 in every 12 people worldwide will be infected in the future.
From this day forward, public places are deserted. The streets are full of garbage. Ironically, David is actually hailed as a prophet and his portrait is hung on the wall. By the 26th day of the outbreak, the government starts distributing food to the people. However, supplies are limited and incidents of looting frequently occur.
A person who was just robbed saw everyone rushing to a truck and followed along.
However, after everyone crowded into the truck, they discovered there was actually no food inside. On that evening, Mitch heard his neighbor being robbed at gunpoint and hurriedly called the police. However, 911 was constantly busy. The authorities even opened a special line for the epidemic, informing people that they could report deaths by pressing 1. On the 29th day of the epidemic, even by this day, the virus has already claimed the lives of 26 million people. After 56 failures, scientists finally discover an effective vaccine. A female scientist risked her own life to test the vaccine on herself.
The results prove that the vaccine is finally successful. Countries around the world begin producing the vaccine day and night in secret factories. It is estimated that all vaccines will be manufactured and distributed within a year. But then a new problem arises.
Who should be the first to receive the vaccines? Over 100 days pass on the 133rd day of the epidemic.
The first batch of vaccines is finally completed and starts to be distributed. As for the majority of the vaccines, they are distributed through a lottery system.
For example, if today's draw is March 10th,
then everyone born on March 10th will be vaccinated.
the next batch of people drawn will have to wait until the next day for vaccination.
The unluckiest groups have to wait for over 300 days.
The long wait causes some people to lose their sanity. In one village, the villagers kidnapped an American official to exchange her for over 100 doses to save the entire village.
The trade eventually succeeds.
But what they received was just a useless placebo. In this chaotic world,
It's difficult to distinguish between kidnapping and deceit.
which is more shameless? As the vaccines are gradually distributed,
David also gradually loses his influence. Eventually, he is even arrested by the police. Through blood tests, the police prove that he has never been infected with the virus.
they claim that it was just a lie. He must appeal to his supporter and get vaccinated.
The movie doesn't explicitly state whether David accepted the vaccine, but when order is restored, presumably, he won't escape justice for long. It's also on this day that Mitch discovers on TV that his daughter's birth date has been drawn.
Her ranking is not early.
And she has to wait 144 days to be vaccinated.
However, his daughter has a little boyfriend whose luck is much better.
He can be vaccinated in 3 days. 3 days later,
The little boyfriend comes dressed up to dance with Mitch's daughter. He wears the bracelet issued by the authorities on his wrist.
which means he has already been vaccinated.
Others can safely come into contact with him. The two young people, who have had little contact since the outbreak,
Can finally hug each other now. Mitch watches and feels both sad and relieved.
he doesn't disturb them. The story basically comes to a satisfactory end. In the end, the movie tells us the origin of the virus. Originally, a bulldozer destroyed a forest, and the bats from the forest lost their habitat.
Came to the human living area.
The virus in them fell into the pigsty through food, infecting the pigs. The chef was infected while processing pork.
At that time, Mitch's wife happened to be on a business trip and shook hands with the chef, so she got infected. The above is the story of the first day of the outbreak.
The most ironic thing is that the bulldozer belonged to the multinational engineering company where Mitch's wife worked. This may be the so-called law of karma.
So, well,
Today's movie ends here. Please feel free to follow Happy Movie. See you next time.